keys to the mansion to Max Verstappen. That is free real estate. He's got to bring furniture. The trouble is that he may have a hard time picking out the furniture in this house. So this is also where we get to the fact that Carlos Sainz Jr. seems like the most obvious replacement. After all, he is still a Red Bull affiliated Formula One driver. He is on loan as of this season from Red Bull to Renault. Red Bull still ultimately cut his check. So you figure in terms of his position with the team and in terms of his performance. I know he's had struggles at Renault at times this year, but when he was with Toro Rosso, he was genuinely one of the most underrated young drivers, especially when he was with Verstappen and when he was able to give Verstappen more than a fair run for his money at times in 2015 and at the start of 2016.
Well,
but because they don't get along so well, he may not get the seat. And now Carlos Sainz Jr. may have to look for other options.
Yeah. Can we also talk about I want to get back before we end this topic about talking about what Red Bull loses in all this, but also, like, you just have to look at how talented Carlos Sainz is. In Coda last year, that was his first race with the Renault. That was his first time sitting and stepping into and driving that Renault, and he scored points and was genuinely as fast or faster than Nico Hülkenberg all weekend, who had been driving that car all year long.
All season long.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's not like Carlos Sainz Jr. is just no match at all for Nico Hülkenberg. Yes, the point share is 52-30 in favor to Hülkenberg, who is 7th in the championship, to Carlos Sainz is 11th. But Carlos Sainz hasn't always had the luck on his side, and he's had some genuinely impressive races, including 5th place at Azerbaijan earlier in the season, which is still Renault's joint best result of the season, followed only by Hülkenberg's 5th at the German Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz mania has cooled down, has chilled just a little bit, but it's still hot. And the thing is, he definitely deserves on merit, he should definitely get the Red Bull drive, but the politics may not let him have it.
Yeah.
And that's really a shame if that turns out to be the case.
Red Bull's really losing something in all this. They are losing their more consistent and I would say equally as talented head. Max will pull out drives that make you reconsider what are possible in certain conditions. But in terms of average pace, I'd say they're about the same. They each have days where they're better than the other. Daniel is far better on the brakes than Max is, and far better at making judgment calls than Max is. So the weekends where Max will get a bit hot, like we saw for the first half of this year, and make some sort of altering... Now they're going to be scoring. They don't have the Ricciardo points to bank on. They don't have... They're losing their... Even if Sainz comes in and replaces Ricciardo, I don't rate Sainz as high as Ricciardo. They're losing their most talented driver lineup they've had.
Yeah.
Well, the second most talented driver lineup they had. The first one, which was 2014.
Vettel and Weber.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, Vettel and Ricciardo.
Yeah, Vettel and Ricciardo.
Yeah.
So if not Carlos Sainz, who would get that second Red Bull seat?
Didn't you hear it's Fernando Alonso?
Yeah, like, in my mind as a team principal, if I have to run Max Verstappen as a second to Verstappen... Like, I say that I'm like I'm being held at gunpoint to run Max Verstappen, but yeah, if I have to run Max Verstappen, ideally...
Christian Horner sympathizes.
Ideally, in that second seat, I'd want a reliable, crafty veteran who, number one, can reliably score points, and number two, who could probably tame Max Verstappen. And when people say Fernando Alonso, I'm like, maybe it should be Fernando Alonso. And then there are also like this like wild rumors out of left field saying that Red Bull are trying to entice Jean-Eric Vergne to come back, which is like, that is not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's Formula E champion, should be Formula E world champion, but semantics, Jean-Eric Vergne. He's not coming back.
He's not coming back.
Unless he personally gets to hit Helmut Marko very hard.
You know, if Kimi doesn't get another one-year deal at Ferrari, you know, Red Bull wouldn't be a bad fit. I know Kimi and Mats have had their spats in the past, but the thing is, it almost seems like he's a perfect fit. Kimmy's got that veteran experience. He can score points, and he's not going to threaten Max's place within the team too much, for better or for worse. No, it does seem like the obvious pick to replace Daniel Ricciardo. If it's not Sainz, and if it's not Fernando Alonso, well, it's gonna be Pierre Gasly from Scuderia Toro Rosso. Has 3 points finishes, but all pretty big ones. 4th in Bahrain, 6th in Hungary. Doing pretty good things with Scuderia Toro Rosso Honda, which, by the way, he has that experience with the Honda power unit already. Has a good relationship with Honda going back to his one-off with Team Mugen and Super Formula. And is every bit the top prospect driver that Red Bull likes. Formula Renault Euro Cup champion 2013. Runner-up in the Formula Renault 3.5 Series 2014. 2016 GP2, now Formula 2 champion. Super Formula runner-up in 2017. Pierre is good. His equipment just consistently won't let him show that.
It's okay, but then I agree that Gasly is probably the most likely prospect at this exact moment, because we all know Kimi is going back to McLaren. Kimi's going home. Or, alternatively, Carlos is also going to McLaren, depending on who you ask. But then the question is, okay, who does Toro Rosso put in their second seat?
Yeah, because that causes the strange issue where if you look ahead to Toro Rosso in 2019 as a whole for them, where technically in 2019 they'll be remaining the on paper works Honda team while Red Bull is a customer, which seems strange, but then there are also other rumors from like last year that Honda were kind of aiming to buy out Toro Rosso.
Yeah, and if Brendan Hartley, who deserves a lot better, if he's kind of a one-and-done deal, which wouldn't make sense, and if Pierre Gasly is the man moving up, well, now Red Bull have cleared the decks for their junior team and don't necessarily have a Formula One ready prospect to take their place, which has led credence to the rumors that Red Bull may take Lando Norris out on loan from McLaren. But now that may come that's coming a little bit of jeopardy, considering that McLaren and Toro Rosso are at a bit of odds with one another over the whole James Key thing.
And that Lando himself has said he's willing to wait to step up to F1.
Yeah, it looks like Lando's coming up with McLaren. They don't think you're Red Bull season. So if you're Red Bull, what do you do with this Toro Rosso lineup? Do you try and bring somebody back into the fold, like an Alexander Albon, or you take you're Brendan Hartley, or do you try and convince, or do you just hope and pray that Dan Ticknam can get those requisite super license points, and then try and write a really convincing letter that, hey, Dan's ready for F1?
Artem Markelov.
Chris has the right answer.
Mamma mia, that's a spicy suggestion that I am entirely here for.
I would say
it would be an even swap.
The only hitch in that scenario is I assume Markelov would be willing to leave. It's more likely, will Renault let him leave?
Yeah, because
he'll be rushing to get there.
Renault. Yeah, he would be rushing. Also, I would love Artem Markelov, but I feel like people would just sour and just like, oh, the Williams brought in Sergei Sirotkin. Now imagine they're bringing up another Russian in Formula 2, which I never heard of. So, oh, man,
I think we know the answer to.
It's Alonso, isn't it?
No, it's the other one.
The other one.
They're going to trade Van Dorn for Key. That is where I've come down on my thinking over the past couple days, and after I've seen my one or two paddock contacts that I still talk to think that McLaren and Toro Rosso are close to agreeing on a deal, but it's going to involve trade of personnel, and with Stoffel's seat looking like a question mark in general with all this Carlos Sainz talk, I don't know. I wonder if they give him Sainz. I wonder if Sainz even still wears a Red Bull helmet in that McLaren.
I don't. Oh goodness, yeah. I'm thinking. This will be the end of... King, go on.
This is going to sound wild.
Give me your spiciest take. Spiciest take.
James Key for Fernando Alonso. Wait, yeah, James Key for Fernando Alonso.
Okay, James Key is not the Fernando Alonso of technical teams, though. That would be, hey, no, for your Red Bull seat, we give you Alonso. You give us Newey. Newey's coming home.
Yeah.